What's up guys, Kyle here again, and guess what? That's right, it's FAQ'N Friday, baby! So you may notice that my setting is a little different today. I'm kind of trying to mix up my filming locations because I like change, I like variety, and doing the same thing all the time kind of drives me nuts as I have a short attention span. So now, we're in my living room. And with that useless bit of information thrown at you, let's get into some questions. First question comes from JackTV6363, and he asks, question, what do you do for a living? You have quite the collection. Thanks for your question, man. I did reply down in the comments, but I basically replied that this is what I do for a living now. I'm now a content creator on YouTube. That feels really weird to say because all my life I have had normal job titles and definitely did not think of myself as much of a personality or an entertainer or anything like that. I actually thought the opposite. I thought I would love to do that stuff, but I just don't have the personality for it. So yeah, I finally decided to start my channel about 10 months ago. While I was working a full-time job, I worked at that job for over 5 years. And as a lot of you guys know, I was recently let go from that job without warning, and instead of going out and just finding another employer or job doing something that I didn't really want to do all that bad for a paycheck, I figured, you know what, I'm gonna kind of dive headfirst into this content creation thing because you guys have all been extremely supportive. I felt that this is going well so far, and I just love the idea of being my own boss, creating my own thing, making my own schedule, and everything that I do, all the effort that I put forth really only benefits me. Meaning I am not putting 40 hours a week in making pennies on a company owner's dollar just so they can increase their profit line while I don't really get that much in return. I know it sounds silly, but it's just always something that has kind of irked me, and I hated spending so much time of my day doing things that I didn't want to do for somebody that I didn't really believe in and a company that I didn't really agree with a lot of the time. Now, this doesn't even go for my last company. This goes for pretty much everybody I've ever worked for. And that's the great thing about the American dream is we really are free to pursue what we want and try to make a living out of it. And really, I'm gonna get out of this as much as I give. So a lot of you guys tell me that I have a great work ethic and that I pump out a lot of content and the quality of my stuff is great. And I appreciate that. I appreciate all your feedback. Like I said, everything that I'm doing wrong, everything that I'm doing right, I always love hearing from you guys in the comments. But yeah, for once in my life, I truly feel like my day is being spent on something that I want to do every day, that I'm building something for myself. And I wake up in the morning and I look forward to the work that I have ahead of me because it's something that I truly believe in, and working for yourself is stressful. If you're not disciplined, you're gonna have a hard time. There are even days where I have a hard time staying on task. Today has been one of those days. It's 11 a.m. and all I've really done was edited a short video and that's it. Got up at 6:30, so not a lot of productivity in that time, but you really have to hold yourself accountable because if you don't, you're not gonna get a lot of work done, and what you're building, what you're working towards is just gonna take longer. So like I always do, I went off on a tangent, but yeah, YouTube content creation for guitar related stuff is now what I do for a living. I'm really enjoying it so far. I'm really happy to have you guys along for the ride, and thanks for your question. Next question comes from Joshua Helton, and he asks, as a guitarist myself, I've been trying to get more into playing drums. How did you go about going from guitar into learning drums? And as a guitarist, do you feel like I do, there's always more of a need for drummers when it comes to forming bands? Thanks for your question, Joshua. Yes, number one, there is always more of a need for drummers than there is for guitarists because it's way easier to find fellow guitarists. Finding fellow drummers or finding drummers that actually want to be in a band that aren't in 8 bands already is really tough. Drums just aren't as common of an instrument. You don't find as many people out there who want to play drums or who play drums and are dedicated to playing in bands. So now at the time when I learned how to play drums, that was not the reason that I wanted to play drums. I just really wanted to play drums. I actually wanted to play drums before I played guitar, but my parents would not let me have a drum set because they were too loud and they took up too much space. I actually lived in a trailer for the first 13 years of my life, so the ability to even own a drum set, like we would have had nowhere to put it. We lived in a small trailer in a trailer park. So I picked up the guitar around age 13, I think. Actually, I got my first guitar not long after we moved into a house, and that was kind of like my consolation instrument. I did ask a lot because I wanted a guitar. My friends that I hung out with a lot, they had just recently gotten an electric guitar, and I thought it was like the coolest thing ever, but as a kid, I was always like finger drumming, hand drumming on my desk, annoying the crap out of people with pencils and stuff like that. I always wanted to play drums. Now, what actually allowed me to finally get a drum set is, I've talked about this before, I have a disease in my hand where I broke a bunch of bones. That happened all within a short span of time. When I was around the age 16, I developed what are called enchondromas, or bone tumors, where the calcium lining on your fingers spreads out really thinly and makes things really easy to break. So I broke them doing stupid stuff like climbing a rope in gym class, playing baseball, trying to move something in shop class. Like, I broke 6 bones in this left hand over the span of 18 months. So I was in a cast for 18 months. And I think my parents could kind of tell that I was going crazy, not being able to play guitar or do anything music related. And while I was recovering from one of those breaks, they allowed me to get a drum set. I bought a drum set for 50 bucks off of my friend Jay, who was selling one. Set it up, and man, I just took off from there. Like, all I could think about after I got that drum kit. Now, how I learned is I picked a really easy song in order to try and be able to play along with. And I probably spent 4 hours one night while my parents were out of the house with my headphones on as loud as I could get them, trying to figure out how to play this song. The song was Radio by Alkaline Trio, and if you know the song, it's incredibly simple on drums. It's just... And it took me hours in order to be able to line up the hi-hats, the snare, and the kick. But at the end of that 4 hours, I had gotten it, and I had played the song a few times through, minus a couple of the fills, but generally I had figured out how to play it, how to match the tempo and everything. And after I had built that, just that bass, I could take that and start applying other things to it. So really, you just have to get the bass, you have to be able to get the timing, the coordination down of both hands, and really both feet. You can start with the one foot, but your left foot will come into play at some point. Even if you're not a double bass player, you'll use that on hi-hats quite a bit. But anyways, yeah, much like guitar, it's like you really have to sit down and you have to struggle through that initial phase of figuring out how to place your fingers, how to properly hold the pick. You know, drums are the same way. You really got to figure out what's a comfortable seating position, what each hand is supposed to be doing, what your foot's supposed to be doing, and how to keep all those things in time. But once you get that bass, you learn a simple song and you play it over and over again, you can kind of just build on that from there. So yeah, that would be my suggestion. You could obviously take lessons, but in my personal experience, I have always learned stuff on my own because I get to learn what I want to learn, the way I want to learn, at least just to start. So pick a couple really easy songs on drums that have a simple beat and just try to emulate them the best you can until you nail them down, and then build off of that. Hope that helps, man. Harsh Truth asks, what are your thoughts on the 4-cable method versus the normal method on a noise gate? Thanks for your question, man. So 4-cable method is not really something that I ever use, to be completely honest. I don't really ever mess with the 4-cable method. I find if you have a good gate and your amp is in good working order, even a 5150, you should not have that much hiss coming from your amp to the point where you're really even gonna notice it all that much in a band setting when there are like quick pauses in songs like that. So I really haven't messed with it all that much. Not to say that it's not useful, because it is. Again, if you have certain amps that are hissy, the 5150 is known to be very hissy in between playing, especially if it's not in proper working order, it's getting old, it's in need of service. That 4-cable method will definitely help quiet your amp down. And I should probably, maybe I'll do a video on that sometime here in the near future, showing how to hook up the 4-cable method with a couple of different noise gates that I have on hand and what difference it's gonna make. But yeah, that does really make your amp silent as long as you have the right gate, you have your parameters set correctly. But me personally, I've just never found that I needed to use it. I also don't use any I don't use any effects loop effects. Why am I having such a hard time figuring out how to say this? I don't use my effects loop for effects. The only thing I ever really use it for is an EQ pedal. That's something I would like to get into a little bit more though, especially with Bushido Code. We're trying to expand the way that we write and the effects that we use to create a little bit more dynamics in our music and not just have it be this extremely driving metal thing all the time. Not that we're trying to get into like melodic stuff or ballads or anything like that. Just trying to give our music more of a variance in the dynamics, where certain parts sound bigger because they're supposed to sound bigger and certain parts are a little bit more laid back. That all just creates more of a mood in music, in my opinion, and On our last record, we did that in a couple spots, and I just noticed that, we only had a few days to record the whole album. It was recorded really well, it was mixed really well, but there was also just kind of a little bit of a lack of dynamics that I noticed, certain parts that I felt like should have hit harder. And I believe that part of that is up to the band and how we recorded certain things. So that's something that I want to work on moving forward. And last question, which kind of ties into the question that I just answered. Harry Canyon back with a crucial name and a crucial question again. Do you use any effects, modulation, or time-based effects? Do you use any effects, modulation, or time-based when you play live? I've never seen you use any in your videos. Thanks for your question, man. Keep them coming. Your questions are always great. I do not. Derek does, and I am actually trying to get my guitarist and Subdue, the band that I play drums for, Jason, to start working in some noise-based effects and stuff for our band, because I really think that they do create much more of an atmosphere. They create more dynamics within the music, they create more variance, and it just makes everything more interesting. I have never really used that stuff. I really just don't know how. I don't know how to use delay pedals properly. I don't know how to use reverb or octave or anything like that. So I really need to kind of start digging into that stuff for my own good. But yeah, I don't typically use that stuff live. Derek, my lead guitarist, does. He's great with the modulation type stuff. He's great with the delays. He knows exactly how to set them up, how to use them, how to make them sound great, how to make them work with his leads and everything. So maybe I'll get him in here on the channel doing some videos with me. That way we can kind of show you guys some not only cool effects pedals and stuff like that, but ways to use them, ways to incorporate them into your music. I think that would be great. Let me know if you guys are interested in that, and I'll get Derek over here. We'll record some cool stuff. He's a ripper on guitar, so it'll also be cool to hear somebody who can actually play on this channel. But yeah, guys, that is gonna do it today for me. Thank you so much for watching. As always, next week, put your comments down below in the comments. I always say this wrong, and I have to do it like 3 times every time. Put your questions down below in the comments for next week, and I will do my absolute best to get to them. Down in the description of this video are my Sweetwater affiliate links and my Patreon. Both of those greatly help me out if you guys visit either of those links. There are also links to my Discord server and my Facebook group, so we can grow the community around Belligerent Amateur Studios and get you guys involved as much as possible. So check those out while you're at it. Kyle here again. Thanks so much for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.